But we want to take you to Cape Town now, where struggle poet and writer James Matthews, who died in his sleep in Cape Town, will be laid to rest today. Matthews was born in District 6. He started his work as a journalist, writing for a variety of publications, including the Golden City Post and the City Times, or the Cape Times, in fact, as well as serving as news editor of the Cape Town's Muslim newspaper. Let's take a look at that particular story now, that send-off. Let's bring in SABC News reporter Corbin August. Corbin, good morning to you once again. I did see mourners have gathered inside the hall, and I see you standing as well with, I know, a very close friend of the Matthews family, Corbin Jansen, who I presume you'll be speaking to.
Yes, indeed. Well, we are still here at St. George's Cathedral, where the funeral service of renowned poet and writer James Matthews will start shortly. Of course, as you indicated earlier, Griselda, mourners have started arriving. Family, friends, loved ones, dignitaries, all coming through today to pay their respects and to pay tribute to the late James Matthews. But yes, indeed, Griselda, we do have family, friend, and a familiar face at the SABC here with us to talk to us a bit more about the legacy and what the memories they have that they can share with us of James Matthews. Corbin, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Corbin, thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity. I just want to say thanks to the SABC for being here today, because, you know, the life of James David Matthews needs to be celebrated, and we are. It's a celebration today of a great life, a life of great struggle. And, you know, for us who grew up in the shadow of James David Matthews, it was the patriarch of the struggle for us, the patriarch of resistance. You know, a dissident is I think, the best way to describe the work and the poetry and the writings of James David Matthews. On a personal note, of course, my first little bit of TV I ever did was a documentary on the life of James Matthews in probably 1992, so a lifetime ago. The first piece, and of course his son, Jimmy Matthews, James Bradford Matthews, who we all know as, of course, former head of news here at SABC. You know, as my mentor for many years. We started ETV, we worked at SABC News for many years, and yeah, so it's a very close sort of a family link, and today it's a lot of smiles, a lot of warmth, and it's nice to see all the old struggle faces here today.
That was a wonderful tribute, Corbin, but maybe also just talk to us a bit more about the legacy that you think James Matthews leaves behind.
It's the legacy of a dissident, you know, it's the legacy of struggle. It's a man who never sold out the struggle. It's a man who went around the world and who probably in his pomp was celebrated more abroad than he celebrated here in South Africa. But that's the story of South Africa. You know, we don't treat our heroes that well back home. And maybe that's something we can take out of this. The life of someone like James David Matthews should be celebrated more and should be more front and center in South African society, because, you know, it's a story of South African struggle. It's a story of taking South African struggle, the anti-apartheid struggle at the time. It's a story of taking it abroad and bringing it home. It's a story of getting sanctions. It's a story of isolating South Africa even more in the 80s. And you know, the sort of writings of James Matthews will always be remembered in that vein, you know, as a man that never sold out the struggle, that was always a dissident when it came to oppression, who always took the view that, yeah, we have to stand up. And all of us here, we learned from that over the years, whether we worked in media, you know, whether we're in politics, there are lots of politicians here as well. It's about the struggle, you know, the struggle for liberation, but also the eternal struggle of the oppressed.
And then you mentioned the major influence that James Matthews and Jimmy had on you throughout your career and your lifetime. But just if you look at what they are leaving behind, maybe just the values of James Matthews and the lessons, how do you think that can be used maybe to shape the youth going forward and maybe help the country on a maybe more positive trajectory?
Well, on a personal note, I blame James Matthews for being fired so many times on TV, because, you know, I was always fighting that struggle. I was never going to back down. You know, we fought for the little guys that told us. James Matthews would say to me, "We are the little guys. I am the little guy, you know, so the fighting of oppression is one that's innate to us. It's one that we've walked the streets here up and down outside St. George's Cathedral for 40, 50, 60 years in the name of struggle, in the name of fighting against this incredible oppression that we've suffered in South Africa. The lesson for young people is don't ever give up. There's always hope, whether you're 95 like Uncle James was or whether you're 15. Injustice is injustice the same everywhere in the world. It is our duty to resist. It's our duty to stand up. It's our duty to stand up against the oppressor in a very dangerous world. We live in a dangerous world that's on the point of going to war, if you like. You know, the military-industrial complexes around the world want to get us into war mode day in and day out. And, you know, if we are going to resist, we will resist with peace. And young people need to understand, men like James Matthews, the reason why we can still stand here and fight for peace.
Well, Eben, I think we leave it there for now. That was beautiful words and monumental tribute that you have just paid to the late James Matthews. All of the best, and we'll see you inside.
Cool, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that was a family friend and also a familiar face at the SABC, Eben Jansen, just paying us tribute and just talking to us more about the legacies that James Matthews leave behind and just how that can also help to shape the future for the youth going forward and what impact that can also play in building a more brighter and more positive South Africa. Griselda, back to you in studio.
All right, Corbin, thank you very much indeed. His son, Jimmy Matthews, the late son, Jimmy Matthews, was once head of news here at the SABC. His father also having played an indelible mark in the journalism fraternity as well. Corbin, thank you very much indeed for that, speaking to Eben Jansen, who's also a familiar face, as Corbin says, here at the SABC and also a very close friend of the Matthews family.